Okay, welcome to the Healist podcast. I'm so excited to have you all here. And first, before I even get started, I want to thank all you new listeners and new subscribers because there have been many of you coming on, finding us some way, somehow, listening to these beautiful interviews. And I want to thank you. And if you're new to us, I would love for you to subscribe and share these stories so you can help other people learn about all these different ways to heal. And today I'm really happy because I have a long time friend that's going to be on here, Kelsey. And God, I think I've known Kelsey at least for 10 years. I feel like our lives, like we keep intertwining with each other through all, we have a mutual best friend, and I've gotten to do channeled healing sessions for Kelsey back in the day. I've gotten to take her beautiful Kundalini classes over the years. I've seen her speak, just all these different things. And so, welcome, Kelsey. Tell everybody who you are and what you're up to in this world.
Oh, Dawn, I'm so happy to be with you today. This is such a beautiful platform. I'm Kelsey Mazzocco is my last name, and I specialize in something called spinal energetics. And part of that is energy. We're all energy. So I also teach Kundalini Yoga and meditation. Um, my work is really like a somatic work that's dealing with the body. So I have like Felix the Bag of Tricks, over the years have collected a lot of different modalities that I kind of blend into my practice. So it's kind of a combination of things now, but really the forefront of what I do is the spinal energetics. So
I'm
yeah.
so excited to hear about that because I don't know. I've never experienced spinal energetics. I don't know anything about it.
Oh,
But I feel like
it's
I'm like the listeners. I'm like, what is that? What does that mean?
it's so good. I mean, honestly, I come from a background of I was a massage therapist. I did do body work in my 20s. I went to a Barbara Brennan offshoot school for energy healing. It was more than a 4-year program. It was called Lionheart. And this was in my 30s. Um, and so when I had my baby late in my 40s, it felt like I always knew that I would be doing all of this
I
work full
remember
time.
that.
You
I
remember this.
saw that like 10 years ago. Yeah. And here
I
we are.
knew that I would be doing this magic, this because it is magic. I mean, and the magic is the miracle and the shift within the perception and the clearing of the body so that you can really see really who you are
Ooh.
for real. So I knew I would be doing this, but I thought I would be doing it like my late 60s or I don't know, because I was like, I'm a successful realtor. And I mean, I have a successful business. I've always kind of dabbled in both. Um, when I started working with this energy, it was like game on. There was it it takes over your system and in such a subtle but beautiful way where you have divine inspiration. So slowly, what starts to happen is the soul energy grows larger and larger, where, you know, I'm a very human person. I live a very human life. I have kids. I like to have fun. Um, when we do this work, when we engage in this nervous system reset and this opening into the life force energy, becoming more of who you are than your physical body and your mental mind, then it starts to become a soul-led life.
Ooh.
And I mean, if I can look back on the 2.5, 3 years that I've been doing this work, I've always been doing energy work. But when I discovered this modality, um, everything changed. It was like it gave me a blueprint to put all of the work that I've been doing into a mapping.
Wow.
So, Dr. Sarah, you would love her. She's
Okay.
amazing. She is the founder of Spinal Energetics. She is a chiropractor. It is derived from NSA, for those of you that are familiar with that. You might have seen people's bodies moving, on Instagram and things like this.
What is NSI, just so the listeners know?
So, NSA is a type of chiropractic work
Okay.
that you're doing very subtle. You're working with the spine, the 33 points of the spine, and you're doing subtle touches on opening and activating the system and releasing the tension within the body. And what happens is the body starts to express anywhere that there's bound tension within the system.
Okay. Okay.
So, spinal energetics is we're working with that actual physicality of the spine and the 33 points, but we're also working into the energetic fields. So the physical field, the energetic, the mental, the personal soul, and then the collective soul. So we're going into all of these different fields
Okay.
and we are working with the chakra systems. And, you know, I mean, doing energy work for a long time, I try and be as non-woo-woo as possible because listen, everybody needs to do this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
if
We
you're
are
not, like
energy. We
you're
are
doing
energy.
yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
And but chakras would always, oh, chakras, you're working with the chakras. Listen, these are intricate cities that live within your body that govern
Mm.
over emotions, organs, cells, your
Mhm.
will centers in the back and your emotional centers in the front, your inspiration and your grounding of how you bring it through. And most of us are running on like one or two of these.
Oh,
So we're overcompensating for the others.
okay.
And through talking with the body, we can kind of see what's happening energetically through the system.
Okay.
And then we do an assessment on the feet that kind of allows me to see where the window is into the body, where it's inviting us in to open to more life force energy coming through. And then we allow the wisdom to take over. I mean, this is not, it's way smarter than me. It's way smarter than you. It's way smarter than, so we really, it's the path of surrender.
Okay.
And that's such a big word. Like, what does that mean? Surrender. I don't want to like let anybody, I'm not going to surrender. I'm not going to give up to something else. And especially, I work with a lot of, badass women, and men actually that have controlled their whole lives, right?
Oh, yes,
You know this.
I do. I work with very similar women. Yes.
So,
The
and
control is so, it's in their bodies. It's almost like imprinted as like a complete way of being. And so I feel like even the way they like hold life
yeah.
shows up so physically.
And the story or the programming is usually that we have to do it all ourselves, right? And that's how we live. That's and so through these wounds, through these stories, it doesn't mean that we haven't been successful. There's been a lot of success that's happened from that, right? From
Yeah.
that story.
Mhm.
But what starts to happen is that we're never satiated,
Mm.
right? We're never satiated by what's coming in. We can have all the money. We can have all of the things that we've wished for and dreamed for and created. But if they're built on that wound,
Mm.
on that story, that old programming, then they never fulfill.
Oh, yes.
So when we activate and open this system, the reason I love this work so much is because I'm just trusting in this divine wisdom that's bigger than me or the client. And we both are surrendering. It's like into a dance and allowing for the system to express anything that's ready to move.
Mm.
So, when we talk about prosperity, when we talk about this, a lot of people just think about money.
Yeah.
This is not. This is flow.
Hmm.
Where in our system are we not free,
Hmm.
right? And this starts to, whoo, where in the system are we not free? And then it's like this, it's it it's like a slow avalanche.
Wow.
And it literally, the first, it can take, 3 to 5 sessions, I would say, for people to really feel the flow. But I do have a lot of clients that I mean, I hate to put that gauge on it because a lot of people are straight out of the gate.
Yeah.
Everybody's very individual.
Well, I would imagine that if somebody's had 30, 40 years of working in such a way that their coping mechanisms, which like the stories, the way they're
Yes.
running their life and the perspective that they're seeing it from, they think that that's the way, right?
Yes.
All of a sudden, here you come along with this beautiful modality and trust, and you're saying, actually, and this is what I was hearing you say, Kelsey, there's an easier way.
Yeah.
It's like there's a more natural way to be receptive to the abundance and prosperity that you want to receive in your life. And it's not about like maintaining all these coping mechanisms. And so I would imagine like you're like
Yeah.
literally taking years worth of how they've been operating and helping them clear it. And yeah, I would think it might, yeah, 1 session, 3 sessions, 5 sessions, what a gift, right? But to be able to come into a space of more flow within yourself, where I know when I'm in flow, it just everything seems easier. It's not
Yes.
that life, it doesn't present challenges. It's just that it's easier for me to come back to my center and my truth of kind of what you said earlier, a soul-led life.
Yeah.
Oh, so that is
100%.
so juicy.
And the beauty of it is that it meets you right where you're at.
Yeah.
So,
About that, because I do feel like sometimes things can be over, sometimes people do healing modalities and it could be almost too much if they're not ready for it. So talk about that.
yeah. So meeting you right where you're at, where if we are somebody that is in a very controlled space, that's not used to meditation, that has never really, I mean, it's amazing how many people that have never felt their soul body before. So they're on the table and they're just feeling for the first time the connection with their breath and their body, and maybe some tingling sensations through the system, and maybe some twitching that's happening, and
Right.
they're like, wow, wow,
This,
what was
yeah.
that? I just had the best rest. It felt like I slept for 8 hours and I was on the table for like 40 minutes. What just happened to me?
Wow.
So this is that.
Mhm.
And then I have people that have done, a lot of coaching, have done a lot of breath work, have done a lot of meditation. And it's a beautiful modality to blend with coaching, like the
Mhm.
top-down approach, because a lot of times, we've got it at that level.
Yes.
We can say, I already understand this. I already get it. Why is it not shifting?
Mhm.
Well, this is when this modality comes in and it's working from the bottom up. So it's looking for where in the body that we're still holding on. When we're talking about those layers, that physical layer, that energetic, and the layers of the body, we can work on something on the mental level and we're like, got it. Check. I've already done the dad thing. I've already done the mom story,
Get
right?
$1 for every time somebody said it to me.
Right?
And
I've
you're
already done
like,
that.
yeah,
I've
and
already
it's
done
just
that.
when you're done that. Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you do this work and you're like, "Bah!" like crying, and you don't know where these tears are coming from, and your heart feels like it wants to open and burst open, and it's an autonomic system. So it can be, it trips people out sometimes at first because the expression can happen in a lot of different ways. The
Okay.
expression can come through tears, through laughter, through physical movement within the body. So
Okay.
the body can start wanting to move in ways that it's never moved before. People that don't do yoga and that don't know all these things can start doing mudras. You can want to start vocalizing through the sound, through the body. And
Mm,
it's this innate wisdom that knows exactly what you need to heal. So
mm,
when we're talking about that surrender, we're not surrendering to like, we're not giving up. What we're doing is we're allowing for that divine wisdom that's within us and all around us at all times. For that hour, it's in charge,
mhm.
right? And so we're trusting. That trust is like the key.
Yeah.
And so what starts happening is that we are learning, relearning how to trust our mind-body connection, how to trust that our system is telling us the truth. Our body is not attacking us, right?
Mhm,
These things, when they're showing up, they are actually little alerts that are saying, I need attention. I
mhm.
have a protection here for a reason.
Yeah.
These protections are saving your life. They've saved your life. But we're now in our 30s, in our 40s, in our 50s, and we're not a little person anymore.
Yeah.
And we don't need those specific protections any longer. And we can see things from a different point of view. And letting them go allows for this freedom and
Mm,
this flow that you've never felt before. I mean, it's like you don't know it until you don't know. You don't know that you're walking around with boulders on your heart
yep.
or with
Yeah.
boulders on your shoulders
Yes.
until you allow the flow to happen.
Yeah.
So there's people that have been doing the work and then they meet this and their first session, they're straight out of the gates, their body's shaking, their heart opens, and they just scream and everything comes through and flows through. And at the end of the session, they're like, my whole life has changed. I was going to quit my job and now I see myself in a whole different way. I was going to end my relationship and now I see this in a whole different way.
Mm.
Or the other happens
Or
where they're like,
yeah.
I've been on the fence for a long time and I'm ready to get out.
Yeah.
So
They see the
integration
truth.
is a huge part. I
Mhm.
tell everybody within the first 3 days, they're not allowed to cut their bangs.
Don't cut your
Like,
hair
no
off.
cutting your bangs, no getting divorced, no quitting your job. Okay.
Sit still for 3 days. Yeah.
Because this divine inspiration that happens is you. It's the truth of who you are. You haven't felt it in a long time. And
Mhm.
it's like large. And so you want to like make all these decisions. So integration is the biggest part of this work. I really make people wait, a good 2 weeks before they come back
Mhm. Oh, that's yeah.
because we really need to embody.
Mhm.
That's like the word of the year for me,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Embodiment is huge. And that it actually, when you were saying earlier, the piece around, people who've gotten coaching and they intellectually understand something, I've seen this in my practice so often
Yes.
where my clients are like, I get it, I get it, I've done the work around this. And I'm like, yes, and your reality would look very differently if you weren't still holding this somewhere, somehow, right? And so we got to get into the body, which, practitioners call it somatic, right? This go in somatically and start to move the charge, start
Yes.
to come into this space of the wisdom of what the body has to say, not just the intellectual mind, right? And so what you're doing, it sounds like, is providing this like super highway to get connected. And what was so interesting when you were describing it to me, like somebody's going, oh my God, like my partner, this, or I want to quit my job or whatever. It sounds very similar to whether it doesn't always happen easily for people, right? That's why they need stuff like this. But like when we can see ourselves as the witness, like we're the witness seeing ourselves or seeing objectively who we are.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're out of the story.
Yeah.
Maybe they're saying, oh, my partner is like such a bad person, and did it. And all of a sudden they get into that neutral, objective space where that divine wisdom is pouring through them. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was closing down my heart all these years because my parents did this thing to me, or I was molested, or whatever the story is, right?
100%.
And then all of a sudden they can see and soften and then have new ways of interacting with life, which is incredibly powerful. And
Yeah.
so to be able to see ourselves objectively, I think all our listeners, it's like they may not have ever experienced that, right? It takes time and there's many different ways to get to that. But I think that's one of the most important pieces of healing, right? Kelsey, when you can see yourself in a new way where you're not operating from all those like the stories, the coping mechanisms, the patterns, whatever we want to call it. But what a gift to be able to support people in that.
Oh my gosh, it's life-changing. I mean, like I was saying, I went from having a very successful business for 25 years, working in real estate and always dabbling in this. But when I encountered this work, it was like so life-changing for me and
Yeah,
my
I
own
want to hear it.
journey.
How did it impact you? Like, what was your story with all of this?
Well, I mean, I've always known myself like the truth of who I am as a healer, but and a creative,
Mhm.
but life gets in the way, right? How are we gonna, oh, hi Kitty.
That's
Hi.
your little.
Um, how are we gonna afford all the kids' school and everything and all the things that we like to have happen so that we can, have flow in this physical world, right?
Mhm.
So for me, I was always not financially, that was not meeting it for me. Um, when I started doing this work, it was like a green light yes that I needed to just go for it. And, real estate has been a very interesting last 3 years. So instead of like whining and crying about it, I just decided, hey, I'm going to go do what I love and let's see what happens. I flew to Australia and I trained with Dr. Sarah. And then I flew to Bali and I trained with Rebecca Jacks in
Mhm.
life force energy activation. And so I really combine the two of them, and it's just such a beautiful way to I love the combination of the two. And then taking all of my Lionheart, my
Right.
stuff from
Yeah.
Barbara Brennan, um, the polarity therapy, the cranial sacral, and all of this in combination, I just had such trust. And I mean, I I liken it to coming out of the closet. I mean, you know
The
what I mean?
spiritual closet.
The
Yes.
spiritual closet, or because I've always kind of like people that know me always know that this is who I am. But, it was scary for me to just fully embrace being magic in this way, allowing this magic to come through me. Like, oh, am I a witch? Oh, am I, what, and I'm just like a normal lady, I'm just like a normal lady. Like I have kids and go to soccer games and things. And it's like, what do you do? And me working with this energy allowed me to be me.
Ooh, that's big.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was huge to be able to no longer apologize for it or um, feel like I was gonna, offend certain people or not be or be weird,
Mhm.
because, you know,
I do know.
you know. And and so I just fully stepped in and didn't have that anymore. And it was like the energetics of it just attracted the right people to come. And I mean, every person that I've met through this and how it's shifted their life, it makes me want to cry.
Oh,
Like the amount of people that have tapped into their soul-led life that they've been waiting for, and that just this little shift could create this wave for them. And it's like I'm not doing anything. I'm not healing anyone. I'm like a really good radio station,
yeah.
right? I hold a frequency that I can lift. I've trained myself to lift to a place
Mhm.
where it reminds the others when I don't actually need to touch them, but I do, when I do, um, they're reminded of their own frequency. And so everything that is not in alignment with that highest version of themselves starts to unravel.
Ooh, it's like entrainment, right? Where you're holding a certain frequency and then they can
Yeah.
start to,
And
right.
that's part of it. So that's
Yeah.
part of the work. And so it's literally like that unraveling and that unwinding happens. And anywhere where you're not free within your system starts to and it really is like animals in the wild.
Oh, yeah.
So animals in the wild have a shake-off mechanism, right?
Many face trauma. Yep.
Yes. So when they've gone through a trauma cycle, um, a forest fire, a parent dying, running from, their prey or whatever, they come to the end and they, right, shake this off. Well, we as human beings had this. This was part of our system, and we've grown out of that. We've grown out of being connected with nature. You know, nature is God. I mean, that is that innate part of us. So I talk about, especially in Kundalini Yoga and meditation, that yeah, sure, we get to create like God, right? But we got to go back on the grid and remember where we came from. Otherwise, we get too far away from our blueprint.
Yeah.
We start going out here and doing all these things, and we're controlling the everything, and we forget that we're co-creating
Mm.
with this divine energy that is us,
Yes.
you know. And so that like puts us back on the grid so that
Hmm.
we're connected, we're tethered, so to
Hmm.
say, so that we get to feel that we're constantly fed by this infinite part of ourselves. We don't have to starve. We don't have to be alone over here. We don't have to do it all ourselves.
Wow.
We're
That,
so connected and we're so um, led.
that feels
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. So it's
And
really beautiful what happens from that space.
yeah, and you were saying how for you, how it supported you in being your most authentic self.
Yeah.
And I think that is a soul-led life, right?
It is.
If we can just live in the congruency of who we are and not feel like in with one person we have to be a certain way and another way or in our career or whatever it may be. And when you talked about, coming out of the spiritual closet and how people kind of judge, and that's, one of my missions is to really show how healing can be like the third arm right now. Like we have Western medicine, we have therapy and all that, but complementary and alternative medicine should be like the other thing that people are looking towards to get support with, because as you were saying, if their body, their physical vessel, which is their nature, right? Which is their connection to this earth and how they're going to move through it. If it's blocked because we're all energy at our core,
Yeah.
then their lives aren't going to be as fulfilling. So to come into something as pure and beautiful as like, let me bring you back into your authenticity. And however that unfolds for each person is wonderful. But I was going to say, I do know what it's like to come out of the spiritual closet for any healer that's listening to this. It's like I did it. I've been doing this work for so many years, like almost 20 years. And I remember people saying to me, what do you do? What's an intuitive healer? What are you doing? Like, where's this coming from? What is this? And there's such a negative connotation. So I am glad now in 2025, there is much more support for healing
Yeah.
and there's a lot more innovation. I feel like healing is moving in new ways. And I'm so curious for you, Kelsey, because you are someone in Long Beach, as you're very like connected to the community. You have your Kundalini that you've been doing and meditation and now spinal energetics. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Spinal
Mhm.
energetics. And you have this beautiful little daughter, Rumi, right? Oh my God.
Me. Hmm.
She's the cutest thing ever, I swear to God.
She's
Uh,
so she's a force of nature. She's there you go. That's
well, she kind of, I remember, and I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about this,
yeah.
because I do want to ask you about your legacy in some ways with this, but I do remember there was a point in time where I think, if I remember correctly, there was a transition between like you had your yoga studio, and
Yeah,
then I believe it was like 2020 happened, and it was a Kundalini yoga studio. And if you had to shut it down after a while,
right.
and then when you shut that down, you had this huge like new thing of being able to have roomie, right? So I don't know. I feel like you should tell that story because it's so good.
Well, I mean, the fertility journey I went through for 7 years. I anybody listening, like it's just one of the most challenging things I think on earth with your relationship with the other, with your relationship with your body. You are manipulating the system and trying to be in trust at the same time. It's very woo.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we went through on and off all the things, natural acupuncture, all of these things, to seeing multiple doctors, different ways of getting to bring this little spirit into the world that I felt like was like calling to me very strongly. I mean, you being one of the people, I mean, she would just show up everywhere
Yep.
like, here
Yep.
I am. I mean, I would walk into my chiropractor and she's like, who's the little brown-haired girl behind you? And what does she have to do with the Virgin Mary? I'm like, what?
Oh my God. I
You
love it.
know, um, so yes, quite a journey. I ended up breaking my leg, like just falling off a curb one day. Like it was nothing, no great story, but it was kind of like a bottom for me. Like I just had a miscarriage, broke the leg, probably because, we all know I was energetically not in my body. And I decided it was my bottom and I was gonna let all of this go. I signed up for Kundalini Yoga teacher training that I'd always wanted to do, but I wanted to do it for myself. I wasn't going to teach. I was just using it as therapy really to get myself back aligned. So once I finished this, you know, when you become that aligned and in flow, you can't help but want to share it. It's just what happens.
Mhm.
So I happened to find this incredible space that was above my friend's store. Everything aligned. I had the money, everything. We opened this beautiful space. It was a magical healing space called Go Inward, that became a lot of people's really like place, their little mecca, right? And their place of healing and restoring and learning about themselves. COVID hit. It literally, I found out I was pregnant on the Friday before COVID shut down the studio.
Wow.
And that was on like 3 days later, I think. So I had a friend that had gone and she finally got pregnant. She was my same age. And she was like, if you don't go try, you're going to really feel, are you going to feel resentful that you didn't take it to all the way? And so we went all the way. And it was just like magic from being in the flow. I had a very different experience than I did before.
Yeah, I bet.
And I liken it to energy never dies, right? It just changes forms. And it was like Go Inward was my baby. And then it just went bye-bye. And then it became Rumi.
I love that. And it's interesting how there was so much energy around her entrance into this reality and how then you went and did all your spinal energetics. And it's almost like maybe by saying yes to
Yes.
honoring that season of your life, because I do know being a successful woman who's balancing real estate and Kundalini yoga studio at the time, it was probably tough to be like, okay, yeah, let me slow down. Like let me just slow down and just
Right,
be preggers and just enjoy this. But it was
right.
okay, maybe that's what this season is asking of me so I can get quiet and still welcome in this beautiful little girl. And then it's like other doors started to open for you because you said yes to your
Yes.
soul-led life, not just like linear,
Right.
logical, like I should just keep running my business and doing all these things. It's like, no, like let me see the signs and honor them.
Yeah. And you're 100% correct. I had to choose the soul-led life. I had to stop making the excuses for what I thought I knew, right? Like, oh, but I know how to make money. Oh, I know how to do this stuff. I mean, me and my husband had to realign how we were gonna live in our dynamic because I was a boss bitch, right? Making
Mhm.
all the things happen. And, you know, he just got to be like along with the ride. And then all of a sudden, when I decide that I'm going to soften and not be so, right? And allow for myself to be in my divine feminine
Exactly.
and not be so masculine with, we all have both,
Yes.
right? We all have it. We are the point is to balance so that we have the masculine, divine masculine, and the divine feminine. And, as successful women in the world, we've learned very masculine traits in order to survive or make it. But it doesn't feel good and it takes a toll on the body.
It sure does. I know it very well. I'm
Yeah.
dealing with it now. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
know a lot of very successful women that have a lot of physicality stuff going on, thyroid stuff, a lot of anxiousness.
Mhm.
They're just signs. They're just red alerts. If you put your hand over a hot stove, it's you're going to pull back.
Yeah.
That's all those messages are meant to be. We go down the hole of like, oh, I have the story of it, right? They're just alerts.
Hmm.
Hey, come on in. Be with me for a minute and try and sit inside this system here. How does it feel? Oh, it doesn't feel very good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we need to do something about that because it's starting to come into the physical body. Most of disease hangs out in the field for quite some time before it expresses
Yeah.
into the body.
Yeah.
So,
I feel this so much, Kelsey, what you're saying, because I was just telling you before we started hitting record how I'm dealing with like my I've had Hashimoto's, but I really am in a space where I'm like, okay, it's really time to acknowledge this and to see this as my soul really trying to communicate with me
yes.
and to slow down enough and believe that it's kind of what I was hearing you say and what I see in you as a person is someone who knows how to rewrite the story. Like when you went and decided to have Rumi, and then you were saying you were more having to be, you wanted to be in your feminine and soften a little bit more with your, with your husband, like you had to rewrite the story. And every
Yes.
time, if we're actually growing and we're on the path of expansion, our soul is always going to ask us to rewrite the story because in order to grow, you have to let something go to welcome in the new. And
100%. And it's scary.
it is so scary.
That is the scary piece. I have so many people that I see on the street through community and everything. They're like, "Oh my God, I see all the stuff that you're doing. I really want to come do it, but I'm scared." And I'm like, "What are you
What
afraid
would
of?"
you say to them? To like if somebody's new to healing, if they're scared, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh my God, like if I lay on your table or I do something like this with a local practitioner, what's going to happen to me? What am I going to see? Am I going to have to end my relationship or my job? So
Right.
what would you say to somebody that's like starting out with this? How would you kind of invite them into this healing?
Well, first of all, you do have to be ready
Okay.
because you are involved.
Mhm.
Anybody that thinks they're going to go to a healer and pay a bunch of money and then they're going to be fixed is they're full of it.
Because
So
you
they're
are preaching, girl, like, preach it because that is so true. That in of itself could be a whole freaking podcast.
that is, I mean, they're full of it. It's not, nobody
Radical
can
creative.
heal you in that way. That
Yes.
is not how it works.
Yeah.
So, right there, let yourself off the hook. If you're not ready to do this, then don't do it. Keep living the life that you're living, keep numbing. And if you can bridge the gap like that, then have fun. Go have fun. That's what I would say. I was having a great time, and when I was ready to do it, I was ready to do it. You will know when you're ready to do it, and it's not as painful as you think. It
Yes.
meets you right where you're at. Um, this is about you, though, surrendering to your divine self and working with your own innate wisdom. I'm holding the space and I have a very deep listening into the body where I know where I can help it along to open so that your flow can come for you. But I am not going to fix you. And you're not going to really fix yourself either. It's really this combination with the higher self, with God, whatever it is to you. I mean, I call it God, but it could just be nature, if that's what you want to call it, or energy. It doesn't have to be, this isn't religious. This
Yeah, no,
is
it's just, yeah, it's healing.
this is about spirit. This is about soul, allowing for yourself to remember the truth of who you are, which is that soul that doesn't have a story. It's a frequency. So
Mm,
when we shift this frequency, slowly all of the life starts to slowly change, and it's not as painful as you think.
no,
So, and when we have to let go of certain things, the reason why it's not as painful is because you're now remembering who you really are. You're feeling you're on a different frequency, so naturally things will just fall away. We don't have to like force things or get rid of and da da. You could literally, if you did this work and then you just started paying attention, you'll just start going in different directions. You're trusting your navigation system again.
yeah, I always say, Kelsey, with these kind of things, if you do have to let something go, the person that before the healing and then after, you're operating at a different level of consciousness, and the
Yes.
more that you see, the more that it's you step into that flow. And you said something so gorgeous that I want to highlight for the listeners. The invitation to healing is to meet with your own inner divine intelligence and wisdom. I
Yes.
mean, to me, that is like the sexiest thing in the world. It's like, yes, please. I want to know.
Yes.
I want to know my truth. I want to understand myself. Like, why are we on this planet if it's not to like learn and be the best versions of ourselves, to live this like really potent life where we get to dream big and figure out the ways to expand our consciousness to be the version of ourselves that can have that thing. It's really like living a big yes life.
Yes. I'm getting chills all the way up my spine. Yes.
Yeah, so it's like you're inviting them into understanding that inner wisdom and intelligence so they can start to co-create their best life. And
Yeah.
I love that. And I want to ask you, because I know we're getting closer to time, but when you think about the future of healing and, whether it's you or just like where you see it going, like your legacy, for right now, maybe I'd ask you this 5 years from now and it might be different, but because we're always changing and evolving, but
Yeah.
what do you feel where do you feel the future of healing is going and your legacy with us?
Ooh, this is a big question. I will say that I've had a lot of experience with healers that are like their way is the only way. I would caution that. I would caution that. I would, I believe that if we were tapped into the one, right? The one is this source energy, we're all working together in this, that this is a blend. So I really hope that the medical, Western, Eastern, the top-down approach, the bottom-up approach, dealing with the body, we work with them all together. This
Yes.
is because truthfully, um, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like we each have a portal in, meaning that just like intuition, that there's many windows into intuition, right? Through the auditory, through knowing, through seeing. Same with into your system. A
Mhm.
lot of people really have a lot of success with their physicality. They're more physical people. They need to enter through this system, and then the energy can take. Some people need to come in through the psychocerebral so that they get it that way. And they need to get it that way so that they can allow for themselves to feel safe enough to open in their body. Some people, we need to trump it all and go straight for the energy, and then it trumps everything. So I really love that there's all of these beautiful modalities that are being created that are combining the somatic along with the psychocerebral and then using Western medicine as well. I love these doctors that are coming out now, these functional medicine doctors that are, I mean, I have some of my best clients are sent from doctors and therapists
Yep.
when they've reached a point where they're like, my client is no longer having success, and I think there's another step that needs to unlock. And that's usually when I see people. Um, yeah, I believe in the combination of all of it.
I
And I
love.
believe in integration is so important, embodied, meaning we can't just think about this stuff. We have to know it inside of our body. And so when we do big work, we need to take the time to be able to integrate and get grounded again inside of our body. We don't want to be floating up here above our head. We want to be in our body, and then we see the world in a new way, and then we hit it again. So I people got to remember to have fun.
Oh,
I
yeah.
Right? That's what this is all about. I
Right.
mean, what are
100%.
you doing what are you doing? If you're not having fun and you're just like working on
Always
yourself,
addicted to
check, check,
healing
check,
and
check.
all that kind of stuff. It's like there's a time and a place, and there are definitely moments in our lives where we need to spend a little more time in that
Having some fun.
container. But if you're not having fun and you're just always like, I gotta figure out like what's wrong with me and why I seem to be broken or this, like that's the entirely wrong mentality. It's like I love to see it as what is my soul trying to tell me through the circumstances of my current reality? And I'd love to work with a practitioner that could help support me in coming home to myself.
100%.
Yeah.
It's a guide,
It's
but
a
we
guide.
have to
Yes.
remember
Yeah.
that we are all our own healers.
Mhm.
These are all guides and teachers, and they've already gone through it. Why would you want to do it by yourself?
Well, and it's like when I went to Peru, I don't, I could spend all the time trying to like figure out all the places to go and where to learn and where to be and all these things. But every time I go to a foreign country, when I went to Peru last year, I hire a guide that's really good at what they already know the territory and the landscape, and they bring me along for the ride, and I get to enjoy it and I get to have my own experience. And I really feel like healers are you nailed it when you said that they're not there to fix you. They're there to bring you back home to your own innate healing abilities. And I think that is the future of healing, is people really realizing that
Yeah.
if they feel like they're in that kind of victimization of like, oh, like, something's wrong with me and I could talk about this forever, but I've seen it in my own practice. I don't practice like this, but where people are like, I just need you to heal me and fix me. I don't, I want you to make it go away. And I was like, that's not the way this works. And it took me a while to find my voice around that, to really express that to people and say, because every healer, by the way, for all you listeners out there, we're human beings, just like Kelsey said, and we all have our own stuff, and we have to be very aware of our stuff, our own patterns. And I always had a pattern of wanting my clients to feel so supported, and I wanted them to like me. And so if they were like, "Give me a healing, take care of it for me," 15 years ago, I'd be like, "Okay, let me do the dog and pony, all this stuff." And then I got to a point where I was like, "This isn't right. This isn't working." I'm bypassing their own internal system where they can learn how to do this for themselves. So I think it's really finding the healers like you, like myself, or anybody that who's listening, where they're always guiding you back home, right? To you. And I think that's a really important thing. I think that's where, that is such a big piece of where healing is going. Kelsey, if somebody, I feel like I could talk to you forever, but
No, I know.
I'm
I love
mindful of time. If somebody wants to find you, I know you're in Long Beach and you do actual things in the community, but I'm sure you have online services. Do you want to share like what
Yeah,
you're
sure.
offering? Yeah.
So, yes, I work out of Freedom Wellness in Long Beach. I do 1 to 2 groups a week of spinal energetics so that it's a little less expensive than a private. And then I see my privates there. Um, I also teach Kundalini there every Friday morning at 9:30. I have for like years and years. So that is, I love that practice. Um, And then the easiest way is Kundalini with Kelsey is my Instagram. I always have everything. We have full moon stuff. I am doing a retreat. Actually, I have a call today to solidify the dates. That's going to be an 11/11 portal retreat with Spinal Energetics and Kundalini Yoga in Sayulita, Mexico. So
Amazing.
that's coming. Yeah, don't miss that. Oh my God, Dawn, you have to come.
I know. I'm like, oh, I might have to go there. I've always wanted to go to Sayulita, and I'd love to come to
Oh,
class with you and do all. I'm sold. I'm like, I gotta get in and do a session with you and do the spinal energetics because it
I
sounds
know. Please come
amazing. I've,
down.
I've heard such good things about. We have mutual friends, and I've heard such amazing things from all our mutual friends about it. So, hence the fact that I had to interview Kelsey.
Oh, I love
Uh,
you.
love you too. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all your
Thank you for
wisdom.
having me.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great rest of
Special.
your day. Okay.
Bye-bye.